All right, let's jump right in. What if you could get better at what you do? Not just, once in a while, but every single day? Well, today, we're cracking open the playbook for what's called continuous improvement. Let's do this.
Okay, so here's a question that trips up, well, pretty much everyone in business. Can you really get more productive, have higher quality, and be safer all at the same time? I mean, the common wisdom, what we all hear, is no way. You have to trade one for the other, right? More speed means less safety. But what if that's completely wrong?
And that's the big reveal. It's not a trade-off, it's a system. See, when you do it right, these goals don't compete with each other. They actually fuel each other. Think about it. Better safety leads to higher quality, which, you guessed it, naturally boosts productivity. They're all connected, part of the same engine.
Okay, so the big question is, how do you actually build a system like that? Well, it all starts with a single, foundational idea, a whole new way of thinking that really changes the entire game. Let's look at the first piece of this puzzle.
And that philosophy is called Kaizen. It's a Japanese term that basically means continuous improvement. But here's the part you really need to get. It involves everyone, from the CEO all the way down to the frontline worker. This is not some top-down memo. It's about creating a culture where the person actually doing the work is empowered to make it better, one tiny little step at a time.
Now, you can't improve a process that's just total chaos. It's like trying to build a house on sand. So before you can start making things better, you absolutely have to make them stable and predictable first. And that's where the foundation comes in.
This whole foundation really rests on two main pillars. The first one is called 5S. The easiest way to think about it is like a deep clean for your entire workplace. You get everything organized and in its place so problems have literally nowhere to hide. The second pillar? That's standardized work. This is all about documenting the single best, safest, most efficient way we know how to do a job, right now. And you might be thinking, why does that matter so much? Well, look. You've got this jumbled, chaotic process. How can you possibly improve that? You can't. But once you have a standard, that clean, predictable line, you have a baseline. You have a starting point. Without that, you have absolutely no idea if a change you make is actually an improvement or if it's just random. This is the starting line for getting better.
Okay, so we've poured the concrete, the foundation is stable, now we can start building the daily habits that really drive the engine of Kaizen. And trust me, this is where the real magic happens, the magic of compounding improvements.
So, what are the tools that make this a daily habit? Well, first, you have Point Kaizen. This is awesome. It just means an employee can fix a small problem right there on the spot. No meeting, no paperwork, just fix it. Then you have suggestion systems, which create a formal way to capture all those brilliant ideas from the people who know the work best. And finally, visual management. This just means making the status of work obvious at a glance. Is production on track? You should be able to tell just by looking, even from 50 feet away.
And here's the payoff. This is the incredible power of all those small daily actions. A single suggestion might seem tiny, almost insignificant, but when your entire team is making these tiny improvements every single day, the results compound into something absolutely huge. It's like compound interest for your business. We're talking 15 to 35% gains in a single year. That's massive, and it all comes from harnessing the power of small.
All right, so daily improvements are fantastic for building momentum. But what about those bigger problems? The stubborn ones that keep coming back over and over again. For those, we need to break out a more focused, systematic toolkit.
And at the very heart of that toolkit is something called the PDCA cycle. It stands for Plan, Do, Check, and Act. Honestly, it's just the scientific method, but for business. You plan a change, you do a small test, you check the results, and then you act on what you learned, either by making the change permanent or by starting the cycle all over again. It's this relentless, simple loop of learning and improving.
One of the coolest techniques you use with PDCA is the 5 whys. It's so simple, it's brilliant. It's all about getting past the obvious symptoms of a problem to find the real root cause. You just keep asking why, like a curious kid. So the machine stopped. Why? Well, the fuse blew. Okay, why the fuse blow? It was overloaded. Why was it overloaded? The bearing wasn't lubricated. You just keep digging, peeling back the layers until you find the one thing you can fix for good. So, once you've dug down and found that root cause, how do you make sure it never, ever happens again? That's where this amazing concept called poka-yoke, or mistake-proofing, comes in. The idea is, instead of just training people not to make a mistake, you redesign the process so the mistake is physically impossible. The classic example is a two-hand control on a big press machine. The machine simply won't turn on unless both of the operator's hands are on the controls and safely out of the way. You've designed the error out of existence.
Okay, so we've talked about the philosophy, the foundation, and the tools. That's all great in theory. But the real question is, does this stuff actually work out in the real world? Let's take a look at a case study and see this system in action. So for our example, we're heading to Gurugram, India, a super busy industrial hub. We're looking at a medium-sized company that makes auto parts, and they were facing that classic challenge we talked about. They needed to boost their productivity and quality, but they also had to meet some tough new safety standards. They were kind of stuck. So they decided to go all in on a continuous improvement system.
So, let's get right to the results. First up, and this is the most important thing, they saw a 42% reduction in safety incidents. Let that sink in. This wasn't some small tweak. This was a massive, fundamental shift that made their workplace dramatically safer for everyone.
And now for the kicker. Remember what we said at the very beginning about trade-offs? Well, at the exact same time they made their factory that much safer, their overall productivity shot up by 28%. There it is. No trade-off. Better safety and better productivity going hand in hand.
So, how on earth did they do it? Was it some kind of magic? Nope. They used the exact playbook we just walked through. They started with that 5S foundation to get organized. They got employees engaged with daily Kaizen, and when a recurring injury kept popping up, they didn't just write another memo and hope for the best. They used the 5 whys to find the real cause, and then they built a poka-yoke, a new machine guard that just designed the problem right out of existence.
And this right here might be the most important slide of all, because just having the tools isn't enough. On one side, you see what failure looks like. It's just another program of the month, and management is missing in action. But on the other side, that's success. You've got leaders who are visibly involved, the goals are crystal clear, and every small win is celebrated. See, this isn't about checking boxes. It's about building a culture. So, if you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this core idea. Stop searching for that one single perfect game-changing solution. It probably doesn't exist. Instead, just focus on finding the next small improvement. The goal is to get just a little bit better today, and then wake up and do it all over again tomorrow. And that really brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. Look, it is so easy to get overwhelmed by big, hairy problems. But as we've just seen, that's completely the wrong way to think about it. So I want you to ask yourself, in your work, maybe even in your life, what is one small thing, just one, that you can improve tomorrow?